Hey guys, Brian Castro here with Better Chess Training, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at pins. It's a basic tactical theme, but we're going to look at a certain nuance of it today. So let's look at this first position, and what you can do if you want, and I would encourage you to do so, is just pause the video for a little bit and see if you can figure out Black's best line of play. Okay, I hope you've had a chance to take a look at it. And this one's fairly straightforward. Here we can see that this queen is hanging, but there's a pawn blocking it from this rook. But this rook, which is protected by the pawn, um, is a little vulnerable as well. And because of this pin here, this rook is essentially hanging. So we can win a piece with queen takes e6, d takes e6, and rook takes c5. So here we see that we uncovered this attack because of the pin here on the pawn. Um, and so therefore, black is a rook up. Okay, in our second position here, it is again uh, black to move. So pause the video and try to find black's line of play, and then restart the video and see the solution. Okay, I hope you were able to figure it out. In this particular position, we have a very similar theme to the first. First, I want you to notice that white is actually up a piece in this position. He's got 4 minor pieces and black has 3 minor pieces. So take that into account when you're assessing the position. But what black has to do, we see there is this pin on this knight, but there's no effective way to take advantage of that directly. However, by capturing first on e4, we um, attract the queen to the e4 square, and now we have um, this pin along the e file. So we can now win back this piece with queen takes d6, and after e takes d6, rook takes uh, e4, material is even, but through this combination we've won a piece. So that is the second position, and I hope you guys figured it out. Okay, and in our final quiz position, um, it is white to move. So pause the video, take a minute or two to try to figure out the solution, and then see how you did. Okay, this actually is a very important pattern for you to remember here. Um, and the key here is, again, we have this line up here with the rook on the queen. But you may notice that um, there's no direct way to get at the you can't take this piece, which has been kind of our theme in the last two problems. However, this also I guess this position illustrates not just the tactical theme of the pin, but also um, a general concept, which is a concept of two weaknesses. So in this case, the solution here is to attack one of the weaknesses with queen to e4, which threatens checkmate here on h7. Okay, and what we will quickly see, or hopefully you saw during your analysis, is that if we drop this knight back, which would be the natural defense of h7, that the rook um, is hanging. Okay, so if in order to avoid losing our rook, black plays g6 to block the diagonal, we now have our tactical pattern here with queen takes d5, and after e takes d5, we win a piece here with rook takes e7. So hopefully you figured that out as well. Okay, to finish up this video, I wanted to show you an interesting position from one of my games. And it illustrates the importance of studying these basic tactics, not only so that we can exploit them in um, our own games when our opponent makes a tactical error, but also that a lot of times these tactics will show up in our calculations and will help us to make decisions. And that's what happened here. In this position, I saw that um, I had just taken this pawn on a6, but I quickly saw that my opponent would uh, take this pawn back here. For example, after um, it's my move here, if I were to just retreat this bishop, say to f1, then he would just take back this pawn with a fairly even game. However, before I took this pawn, I saw an interesting opportunity uh, to take advantage of these outside pass pawns, or be able to create two outside pass pawns by sacrificing the exchange with rook to b6. And that's what I had done. However, before I made this decision, there was an interesting line of calculation I had to go through, was after knight takes b6 and c takes b6, and he plays a move like either queen to b6 or queen to d8, then uh, let's go to queen to b8 because that's actually what he played. If I were to retreat this bishop either to e2 or to f1, then black actually has a winning move here with queen takes b6. And here we see our our theme with this pin. After a takes b6, then rook takes a3, and now black is winning. He's going to be able to stop this pawn, and now he's up in exchange and a pawn. So I saw this before I sacrificed the exchange, so I realized that, but I found an interesting line of play. From this position, I saw that after I sacrificed the exchange, um, that I would be able to at least draw the game. So I thought it was interesting to try it in any case. And so let me show you what happened. Rook to b6 and bishop takes g2. I took back. And here he accepts the offer. And c takes b6, attacking the queen. And again, my opponent played queen to b8 as I had foreseen. And now here is the big decision. I knew that if I retreated this bishop that I would lose the queen and just be down the exchange. So back when I played rook to b6, I saw that I could at least get um, um, a draw with perpetual check here if he chose not to if he chose to take this bishop. So I knew that I could do at least I wasn't going to lose here. Um, so I played queen to e7, and he took the bishop. And I went on to win by, or I'm sorry, I went on to draw this game by perpetual check, but I actually missed a win. I'll show you that just because it's interesting. Actually, if you want to pause the video and try to figure it out yourself, that'd be very interesting for you if you could find it. I couldn't find it during the game. I found it later in analysis, but go ahead and check that out. Okay, I hope in this position that you found the solution that I couldn't find, which was b7. And the idea here, and this is a pattern I had seen in my calculations, but I thought that I had to play the check first because of being down material. Also, I had about 3 minutes left on my clock, so I couldn't find this. So let's just take a look at why this works. Rook to a7 and a6 to protect the b pawn. And of course, the rook has to take that pawn. So now we use this position of the vulnerable king here, this open king, with queen to f6 check, king to g8, king to e6 check. And for example, if he goes to g7, then I just play queen to c8. And after queen to c8, b takes c8, queen will win. And so going back to this position, I missed that win, but hopefully you found it interesting. But it just illustrates that whole line of thought. I wouldn't be able to make the decisions I made during the game if I hadn't seen that that pin along this line here. So Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please press the like button. I also hope that it will inspire you to continue your tactical practice and training. As you can see from this video, being able to directly employ those tactics and spot them in your calculations is very important and will just continue to serve you as you get better and better at chess. So hope to see you next time and take care.